आज के अंतिम पैनल पे Our final panel for the day is titled Security Technology from Hardware to Intelligence. This session will examine how innovation is reshaping the way India secures its people, assets, and institutions, and how we must move from being a reactive security posture to an anticipatory and an intelligence one. And who better than Kunal Bhogal to steer the discussion? May I please have him on stage and be joined by his esteemed panelists, Major General Jagatbir Singh, Colonel Gurdeep Bains, Major Paul Devassy, and Shri D.P. Sreenivas. Over to you, Kunal.
I'll start with what an interesting, intriguing conversations we've had since the afternoon. I've been making a few notes which I intend to use in this conversation. Over the past decade, India's security stack has moved from mere boxes on the wall to software-defined, infused, intelligent infrastructure. We have moved from using our access cards and given way to biometrics, credentials on our smartphones. Our cameras run intelligence on board. They don't require very heavy-duty infrastructure anymore. And doing all of this are our intelligent command centers, which don't just receive security information, but they also receive plenty of IT and hyper-local happenings around your points of interest in your cities, on the highways, to provide you actionable intelligence. Some interesting facts as I was prepping for this talk. The global security market is about $100 billion. And we, as a nation, are at about 5% of it. This still puts India amongst the top 10 camera consumption nations by volume, and perhaps the highest in terms of camera density per square kilometer. Yes, we have one of the most surveilled areas in the world. By 2030, our collective demand for cameras and access control will double. That's in another 5 years. And fueling this demand is not just plain consumption, it's also policy integration. We now buy 30% more cameras in this cycle for our smart city projects, smart highway projects that we did pre-COVID. Same goes for the smart cameras and the smart security systems that we have for our residential applications. That has doubled in the last 5 years alone. And I'd say even for our industries, we are now using cameras not just for security, but also for process compliances. Look at the EV industry, for example, and we had been extensively talking about EVs for a while. The consumption of camera optics has doubled down in the last 2 years in the EV markets because every new EV four-wheeler now has anything between 6 to 8 cameras on board. In 2024-25 alone, we had 100 plus command centers for smart cities and smart highway infrastructure, even for corporates, and out of which 1/3 are only held by private enterprise. So all of this has also created a lot of demand or a lot of push, and in turn has created 10 million plus jobs, which is more than double the population of Singapore, I'd say. And in all of this, the cyber risk itself is a big point, which normally physical security as an industry does not want to address. But in another 2 years, India probably will be 6% of the global spend. So simply put, the winners are going to be those who will infuse made in India hardware with world-class software and AI and delivers this competitively globally. That's our agenda for this evening, and I'm joined by a panel of very distinguished professionals who do not need any introduction, and they all come with huge body of work in the areas of policy management, security management, and running global programs. And without further ado, my first question would be, sir, for you. As a geopolitical risk and strategy expert, in your opinion, has the global geopolitical shifts influenced India's approach to intelligent infrastructure?
Yeah, thank you very much, Kunal. And I know it's a challenge speaking here to a packed audience, at the last session. It's always challenging because better things await you. But, you've asked a very, very interesting question. And let me just try and delve into that. General G.D. Bakshi, when he was here earlier, spoke, and he said we're living through a paradigm shift as far as security goes. And then he talked of the region also being, the periphery being on fire. These are two things he said. And if you look, what are we seeing today? We are seeing, confrontation all around. You saw what's happened as far as, India is concerned. We've been subject to 5, 6, strategic shocks, so to say, in the recent past. And it's all over. It started with, the pullout of US from Afghanistan. You had the problem in Galwan, you had an issue regarding COVID, you've had the Ukraine war, you had Israel spilling into Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, and now into Iran, and then you had Op Sindoor. All these things are happening. And look at our periphery. 4 countries around us, what are the images that come to light? First, in Afghanistan, people walk into the presidential palace, so to say, and this scene has been repeated. Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, dipping in the pool over there and then burning down the house of the Prime Minister in Nepal, or, former Prime Minister. I mean, no one could see this social unrest coming, free press over there, and yet this was below the radar. So, I mean, things like this are emerging all over. So, where does that leave India? How does this impact security? How does this impact technology? Amongst everything has been weaponized. The economy is being weaponized, and technology also is one of the tools is being weaponized. So you have this confrontation, you have this uncertainty, and security is no longer physical security. How do you secure your supply chains? How do you secure your critical infrastructure? Today, how do you secure? People are more worried, in case their networks are down. How do they manage? What if their networks are attacked? People tell us here, cyber security is one of the most important things. And now you see, what are you dependent on? Where will you get all this from? So you're dependent on a world which is outside to supply you critical, technology. How much have you built in-house? So if you don't have that, you just take the Russia-Ukraine war. Today, President Trump has put sanctions or tariffs on India. What if these are imposed? Like he'll say, nobody to deal with Google. Google is out. WhatsApp is out. Facebook is out. Then you can imagine how you'll function. Say your navigation systems. If you hadn't developed, General Bakshi talked about Navic. If you haven't developed your own navigation systems, would your BrahMos have hit that target pinpoint at the Noor Khan Air Base? So these are things you have to think about. And these are things that are going to be confronting you in the security domain all this time. So how are you going to build self-reliance in as far as your security technology is concerned? I think that is a question that needs to be answered. That is the issue that, all the policy makers need to look at. Today you talk of artificial intelligence being a pillar of global security. You talk of artificial intelligence doing so much. What does artificial intelligence depend on to a great degree? Data. Can data be manipulated? Is data always being used for good thing? Is AI always being used for good thing? Who's making the rules regarding, AI about data? And do we need greater sovereignty as far as this is concerned? Digital sovereignty. I mean, these are questions that come up. And I'm sure this will all be discussed by the other panelists, but there's a problem in today's interconnected world, and because of that, I'll just give you two examples, and you can see how people think. One of the most, highly talked of visits was President Trump to the UAE, Qatar. He was gifted a Boeing, and what has happened a couple of months later? 2 days ago, they bombed, Israel bombed Qatar. Could that have happened without some sort of US tacit support? No. So these are things, people talk one language, do something else. Look at your own case here. Prime Minister Nehru visited China in 54, talked of peaceful coexistence. What was in Mao's mind that time? Building the road to Aksai Chin. That came up in the 50s. So just look at it. So you have to be secure yourself. You have to stand on your own 2 feet. And that's the only answer I can say as far as security and technology go.
Absolutely, sir. Self-reliance and sovereignty is a clear takeaway. My next question is for Sreenivas. Sreenivas, you're a part of a firm which is one of the key players in the market landscape. What strategic vulnerabilities should India address as it transitions from hardware-based to AI-driven system marketplace?
All right. Thanks, Kunal. One thing I appreciate is you have put together very nice statistics to start with. If you look at the surveillance infrastructure, right now, it will not be surprising if we say more than billion devices that are there in the field, which are actually silo data storage devices. You call it NVR, you call it any kind of a storage. There are many of them which are disconnected and silo. So if you look at that vulnerabilities, right, you move it from the local devices to centralized infrastructure, whether it is AI infrastructure or the storage infrastructure, you do have some kind of a cyber security vulnerabilities that will come up. That need to be taken care of. I mean, earlier one of the panel member has mentioned about the data sovereignty, right? We talk about data sovereignty, we need to talk about sovereign data centers or sovereign data storages at the national level, which actually can store data and secure data, which is actually security data, not like the regular data. So these need to be cyber secure, and data overload automatically happens if your AI-driven solutions are, at every level. If you talk about the AI solutions at the edge devices, right? You have so many algorithms that are running at the edge device. So one of the algorithm that becomes a rogue algorithm or a hacked algorithm can actually may not, give you a very bad situation, but at least it will do the data overload. Your data center or your command control center will get flooded with the, alerts. So in 10 minutes, if you get 100,000 events, what do you do with those, right? So there are many kind of these things that need to be checked and balanced right at the gate level in the AI implementations. Not only that, we do have vulnerabilities at the dependency level of the hardware. Like I said, we don't have a lot of these hardware that is manufactured right now at our, internally. So your chipsets are not actually manufactured right now. So we do have vulnerabilities, and we have dependencies as such in terms of those areas. So we need to make sure that we do self-reliant in terms of hardware, and also we need to be self-reliant in terms of our entire sovereign data centers. So AI at the central level is much more easier for you to control and secure instead of AI being done at the edge level or at the last mile or end devices level. So it's both ways you can argue, but I think it is more for us at this juncture where you have so many outward interferences that are happening. We better control at the central level and try to make sure that the AI is not implemented at a bad implementation. It is required, but you need to have an implementation in a proper way. So that's what my take.
Very, very pertinent point. In fact, there's a brilliant metric which myself and Paul were discussing earlier. 9 out of 10 installations are never commissioned the right way. Once you've done the install, your operational layers are completely vulnerable. Nobody looks at that. And this is pretty much so in the non-corporate kind of install base. Corporates have definitely taken care of this now, and normally all security systems, they normally come under the IT. But, and this is not an India problem, this is a global problem. Which brings me to an interesting question, Colonel Bains. Do you think that, multinational corporations, especially with their headquarters in different geographies, are they adopting their protective services to integrate intelligence security in India? Successful have they been, if the answer is yes?
Thank you so much. And well, I do think that several MNCs have successfully enhanced their local teams. Through intelligence security with strong focus on Internet of Things, artificial intelligence and compliance-driven solutions. To take my own company as an example, I come from a company named Accenture, which is a technology consulting company. And our headquarters, if we have one, is, we can say it's in the US, but we have a strong local team. And using our own physical security journey as a case study, we've seen that, for example, with behavior analytics, we can turn a traditional IP camera into an AI sensor. Or we can convert a traditional physical security incident management system into an AI-powered triad system. We've launched a project called the Global Upgradation of our access cards, which transforms a legacy access control system into an encrypted future-proof solution that allows for mobile access, along with being able to communicate directly with readers for firmware updates and credential information. By setting up an intelligence-led security operations center within India, we've been able to provide predictive real-time monitoring and operational control to all of our facilities nationwide. And the shift is, as the theme of today's talk is, the shift is towards prediction and reaction. So there are many other examples, I think, of companies employing AI, machine learning, AI-based surveillance and monitoring systems are addressing the need for real-time analytics, facial recognition, smart city projects, thereby improving operational efficiency. IoT enables remote monitoring, smart cameras, biometric access, and in addition, many MNCs, including my own company, they provide managed cybersecurity services and training, which includes detection and response and employee upskilling. But with that said, we are also facing a problem here at times, and that relates to the infrastructure, where as compared to our counterparts in Europe or in the US, because of huge bandwidth requirements, there are enhanced latency issues. So that's something which we also gradually need to deal with. Thank you.
Lovely. In our line of work, we work with a lot of global players, and normally all of these global companies, they come with global mandates. There are global makes and model numbers. A lot of them are not locally available, so there's a lot of localization that happens, very large projects. Which brings me to a question that Paul, you and me were discussing earlier. How does this influx of technology really help in digital transformation? Is there a big role to play there, and is it redefining any physical security positioning or difference in protocols?
Thank you. So I describe myself as a hardcore physical security professional, but thankfully I've got some software upgrades over the years. Otherwise I would have perished. So that's the caveat. So the thing is that technology is evolving at the speed of thought. So this generation of ours, normally the security people are a little more mature. I will not use the word old. So we have seen the vegan cards, we have seen the smart card, we have seen the smart biometric evolution too. So things are moving and we have adapted to it. So you know what, I would like to give you all, so a lot of times when digital transformation is spoken of, amongst the security populace, some of them, they always ask that, will it cause a loss of jobs? That becomes a hurdle for them to not be an evangelist for adopting technology. So this one very interesting thing. So people who are slightly more mature and who remember the Cold War. So on September 26, 1983, there's one gentleman called Stanislav Petrov. This gentleman was sitting in a missile monitoring station outside Moscow. He saw on his, monitor that 5 ICBM missiles have been launched from US to Russia. So the touchdown time from there to here was some 8 to 10 minutes or something. So he had to take a call. So he called up his superior and said that the way he presented it, the way he analyzed it, he said, I think there is a flaw in the system which is showing 5 missile launches and we are working on it. So after the thing got over, somebody asked him that, okay, how did you come to a conclusion? So he said that if the US is going to launch missile strikes at the USSR, obviously they'll not just send 5 missiles, they'll send 500 missiles. So why did I quote this example is, whatever digital transformation you bring in, ultimately at the end of the day, it's the human being which is going to take the decision whether it's going to be right or left. That's a very important thing. So we as physical security persons have got to understand that we can use the digital transformation as a means of for detecting, assessing, and even responding faster. So interoperability and remote monitoring, that's something which is very much required. So if you remember the earlier GSOCs and the RSOCs of the world, it used to resemble like the launch station of the Chandrayaan. But now it's changing. You know it. You have been in the thing. It's getting smarter. And now I was talking to this friend of mine who's in MasterCard in Singapore. So they don't call it GSOC and an RSOC. They call it a fusion center. Why do they call it fusion center? Everybody from the business is there. So earlier the RSOC and the GSOC was a sanctum sanctorum. Yes. Like nobody was allowed to come in. If you have to come in, you've got to be something really special person. But now it's not that.
It's a shared resource.
You have to share resource. So that is something that we as security persons, it's at times what I always believe is that it's not the technology which is frightening us. It is our inability to grasp that entire thing that technology may help us, and we can re-engineer ourselves to learn to do better. All of us remember 1999, December 31st, all the planes were supposed to fall out of the sky and things were going to come to a thing. The Y2K stuff, no, we did not. There were human beings who took a call and who re-engineered it. So technological transformation is required. Persons should not avoid it. They should use it. They should not abuse it.
Certainly very excited about this entire Made in India movement that we have. I mean, the government helping us with all kinds of PLI schemes. Sreenivas, I want to pick your brains on something. India being a very price-sensitive market. How do you approach scalability and affordability, especially now that we have the new STQC guidelines in effect, which ensures not just competitiveness but also supply chain integrity. I mean, how do you look at that?
The scalability doesn't need to be compromised in terms of pricing aspect. Technology is available. We need to understand how to balance it. So the point number one is don't replace what we call a rip and replace, right? Existing infrastructure is available, so don't try to throw it away just to make it intelligent, right? So there are solutions like ours available where existing CCTV infrastructure can be centralized, brought entire feeds to the central command control or to your cloud, and then apply analytics and do the centralized storage. So like sir earlier said, bandwidth is a issue, right? But in India, what we have noticed is a lot of these local bandwidths, if your camera, your solution is camera agnostic, and if your solution is, variable storages can be done at the central level, you can pull up any number of cameras from any number of locations and store variably in the cloud, and also apply analytics on the very low-end cameras also, right? So if you do this kind of budgetary management, you still can do the scalability, but you don't need to compromise on your budgets, right? So the second aspect is our solutions are now maturing to become VSaaS, video surveillance as a service. So a lot of companies like ours, we are ready to work with the customers where we are putting our investment, we're putting our infrastructure and also the cloud infrastructure to give you as a SaaS service the entire surveillance. So which is completely new thing right now, instead of you buying the cameras, buying the cloud storage, we are there, work with you to do the video surveillance as a complete service.
I mean, tech change is definitely happening fast.
And Kunal, just to case in point, one of the customers that we have done from 480 locations, all the existing cameras, around 3,500, we brought into single cloud, and then we are storing each individual camera 180 days of storage in the cloud and running analytics on some of the analog cameras which are there sitting in the last mile.
I was refraining to talk about cloud in this entire conversation. I mean, that's another big piece. But yeah, I mean, clearly the tech change is happening very fast. General Jagatbir Singh, sir, how important do you think is the human aspect, the human intelligent aspect in all of this?
You talked of everything, but the human aspect is extremely important. While digital transformation is, important in all organizations, and every organization needs to be ahead of the technology curve. Technology today is getting outdated so fast, obsolete so fast. You have to be ahead of the technology curve at all times. And there are a whole lot of systems, there to assist you. But even in this rapidly changing technological environment, the heart of everything remains your human intelligence. And I think Paul has given a wonderful example of Colonel Petrov, in 1983. I mean, there could have been a nuclear, what they call MAD at that time, mutually assured destruction. We may not have been sitting here today, And that one man took one decision based on his own intelligence, not on, what he saw on the screen, which actually turned out to be some freak weather pattern which had triggered off, similar to a missile attack. So, while technology is very good to automate tasks, to analyze data, to improve, efficiency, and, some things are difficult to replicate, but the human intelligence has unique qualities, and that there are so many qualities that are there in a human brain which cannot be replicated, cannot be automated, cannot be at a tip of AI, which a lot of people feel. And one of them, I can just give 2, 3. What about out of the box thinking? How does that happen?
Absolutely.
Someone mentioned pagers being used as bombs. That was totally some creative weaponization of an everyday object. So that came out of the box thinking. Would AI have given you that? So that's another thing. How do you think of these things? What about critical thinking in organizations? What about the emotional part of it? I mean, these are issues that you have to look at, you have to think forward. So I feel that humans have the ability to adapt to new situations. What is AI? You would have fed in certain things based on certain amount of data. So I'm not a technology person to that level, but I worked in a part of a project where I was guided by people who had far greater knowledge than me in, this field. And it was an organization in the army called DGIS. And we were working on a combat information, decision support system. And finally, it's very difficult to replicate, on ground where your tank should go to occupy a fire position. I mean, it's huge challenges, So this is there. What you need is harmonious coexistence between technology and humans, and we have to leverage the best out of technology to enhance and optimize our thing. That's what I feel.
Absolutely brilliant, sir. I think we did well on time. Any last words? I'll start with Paul.
So, one of the things that people speak about this when digital transformation takes place, how do you make it happen? So, again, data. So, Formula One, the pit stops, the fastest pit stop was executed by McLaren in 2023 Qatar Grand Prix. And the timing was 1.80 seconds. They changed the four wheels, they filled the petrol, and they let the vehicle back. So what it meant to say is that transformation is only possible when all the arms of the organization are working together. Security is going to work in a silo, then obviously 1.8 will turn into 10.8. Yeah.
Sreenivas, from you?
When it comes to the AI in security, specifically in the security, AI is a very broad spectrum of area. We are not here to replace the human in the loop, right? The human in the loop will always remain in the security, but only thing is the efficiency and the efficacy of the systems will only improve in terms of what the security opportunities to prevent the loss, prevent the incidents that happen. So what we do is basically we enhance the existing systems. And if you see the history of technology evolution, it's always there have been improvement. And AI is the same. So what you, like what Sir said, what you input is what we get. But the model context right now in AI for the LLMs and also the model context protocols are very advanced right now to extend towards the agentic AI's workflows. Those workflows are very important for us to replace some of the mundane activities and improve your opportunity for securing the environment. So across all segments.
Great, thanks for that. Kunal Bains?
I'd just like to mention that the deployment of AI-driven solutions, they are not without challenges.
Absolutely.
So we need to be conscious of the fact that there are significant legal privacy concerns that differ from country to country. Different companies also, within the corporate, different companies have their own individual interpretation of these requirements and their risk appetite. So I think it's also equally important to ensure a responsible deployment of AI solutions. And, we need to keep in mind the legal and the ethical aspects when we do so.
Any last words?
No, I think basically I want to say the same thing, that you need to leverage technology to optimize your decision making, to optimize everything, but the human being is still indispensable. Your human end still remains indispensable.
Kunal, which is the world's oldest access control system? So you know what, so the Lakshman Rekha story, so with all due respect to people over here, it's my interpretation. When Lakshmana drew that Lakshman Rekha around the place where Sita was staying, what did he tell? Don't cross. But if he had educated her better, why he should not have crossed, things would have been different.
So the name of the game is education, sir.
Education. And thanks to this thing, I was doing some reading up. The world's first automated access control system was produced in 1961 by Securitas. It was called SecuriCall or something.
Brilliant, sir. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for those insights, and thank you for the audience.